Solar Titans are back. If you've been living under a rock the past couple of seasons, you may or may not know that the Titan Restoration build was the most broken build in the game last year with Solar 3.0. Then it got nerfed. Well, guess what, guys? We're back again, and this time, we're taking the Restoration build on these Solar Titans to the next level. So with this build, you're going to get a DPS increase, you're going to get infinite restoration times 2, we're going to make swords so powerful that your enemies are just going to cry, and we're just going to become the true Titan God. And when I mean God, I mean you literally are a god, you just cannot die. But it's actually quite hard to die when you're just casually playing the game. Now, don't get me wrong, if you take this thing into a Master activity whilst almost 30 under the recommended power level, it will be rough, but it doesn't make this build bad. This is the type of build where you need to be hitting things in order to stay alive when you're fighting hard hitting ads with snipers shooting at you and all sorts. So this build, I'd still use it in Master content, but you want to use it when it's the right content, or you might have a difficult time. I mean, just look at all this crap hitting me in this legendary mission whilst I'm capped underpowered. This is the sort of content you want to be using the build in, because as long as you keep killing ads or hitting something, you're good. Now if you guys like this one today, then leaving a thumbs up down below is much appreciated, and feel free to subscribe to make this build even stronger somehow. And now let's just get straight into it. So this is the third build to the series, and today we're rocking a Solar Titan build, updated for Season of the Deep. So if you do like this build, then you might like some of my other builds that I make for Destiny 2, so be sure to check them out in the new Season 21 build playlist, which is linked down below, because you might just find your new best build. But with this one today, we'll be making Solar Titans worth using again, but sort of with a twist. Instead of using the Lorelei Helm like last season, we're actually going to be using the Stronghold, which was probably one of the least used exotics, but the reason for this is because in Update 7.1 that released with this season, the Stronghold exotic got buffed. So what happened with Stronghold is that it's now replaced the healing from blocking shots with significant damage reduction, 50% in PvE. And while blocking with a sword, when you stop blocking, you gain restoration times 2. This paired with the Lament sword is crazy. You are literally unkillable 9 times out of 10 as long as you keep hitting enemies, killing them to extend the restoration, and blocking every now and again. Now this isn't the only good sword, you can actually use so many different swords with this build. Another good one is the Heart Shadow, although this won't help you extend restoration because it's not a solar weapon. It'll make you invisible, so you could use that invisibility to your advantage alongside temporary restoration effects. But for this build, we're going to be using the Lament sword and the Stronghold exotics. Now the Lament has a built-in anti-barrier perk, so you can stun barrier champs with it, which makes this worth using in endgame content where champions are present, and it also heals you when you damage enemies too. So this combined with our restoration effects is going to make this insane. Now since we're a dedicated sword build, we're going to also use the buffed Stronghold, and what this reads is maximize guard stats on equipped swords, you take reduced damage while blocking, and rapidly defeating targets after blocking shots with a sword grants restoration for a duration determined by the number of shots blocked. And that restoration effect is a times 2 and not times 1, which makes this even better. If it was a times 1, honestly it probably wouldn't be worth using, but since it's a times 2, this exotic now has a place in the top builds this season in my opinion. So the way you'll use this build is first block shots with your sword, ideally the Lament, and this will give you perfect guard stacks. The more stacks or shots blocked, the longer the restoration effect starts at when you unblock. You'll then unblock and attack an enemy and you'll get restoration times 2. From here you just kill ads with either the Lament or any solar energy or heavy weapon or ability, and that will extend the restoration timer. If you're completely out of restoration, just use your sword again and get it back. As long as you're using your sword to get restoration times 2, then you're going to be fine, because you can use an energy weapon to extend the timer for as long as ads are around. And the worst case, you just throw a healing grenade and get the times 1 temporarily. Now sometimes you might use your hammer to kill an ad, and this will kind of bug out the timer. It actually takes away time from the restoration times 2, so you're sort of capped at 6 seconds if using the hammer, so you'll only want to use the hammer as a last resort, otherwise you're going to make things kind of worse for yourself. You can still use the hammer for Radiant, just don't go into any sunspots while you have a higher timer on the restoration times 2. Anything below 6 seconds is fine, but if you're on a killing spree with a constant 12-second timer, then don't use sunspots, or you will knock that timer down to 6 seconds. Now with this build we'll be rocking the Titan Solar subclass, and we're going to use the Hammer of Soul super ability. You can use the Burning Maul if you want to, but I prefer the hammers. For the class ability we have the Rally Barricade as it has a shorter cooldown, We have a throwing hammer melee. This is going to give us a cure every time we throw it at an enemy and then pick it back up. And we are also using the healing grenade, which will be our last resort for restoration and cure if we're about to die. So we just throw it on our foot and get a bit of health back. As for the aspects, we have Soul Invictus, solar ability final blows, and defeating scorched targets create sunspots, and your abilities regenerate faster while standing in one. And on top of that, sunspots apply scorch to enemies and give us restoration ×1. So these sunspots are really good, and our hammer is an ability, so every single kill with it will create a sunspot. So it's pretty much an on-demand restoration and cure. And we get these infinitely as long as you pick them back up, which is probably the best thing about Solar Titans. The second aspect we have is the Roaring Flames. Final blows with solar abilities or ignitions increase the damage of your abilities. You could run a normal grenade with this build if you want to, like a solar grenade or a fusion one, but generally you'll use the melee to stack up DPS buffs anyway, and since we are a restoration build, we won't be going too hard with our abilities anyway. Now for fragments, we have Ember of Solace. Radiant and restoration effects to us have increased duration. Ember of Searing, defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite, and those fire sprites will give us grenade energy. You can actually use the Ember of Mercy if you want to get restoration from them too, but with all the effects we're getting already, it's just not needed. So our third fragment that we're going to be using is the Ember of Torches, which just means our melee attacks, that being our hammer, will make us and allies radiant for a DPS buff. And then our final fragment is going to be Ember of Imperium, so our solar weapon or ability final blows extend the duration of radiant and restoration. Again, with this build, you 100% want this one on to make the most out of that restoration ×2 that we're going to be getting from the Stronghold Exotic. Now if you don't want to use the Stronghold and swords, the second best solar build is either to use the Lorelei restoration build, which helps you when you're not expecting to almost be killed. I did make a build on this last season, so feel free to check it out in the season 20 playlist. It does still work just as good, but other alternatives are Synthoceps, Hallowfire Heart of Inmost Light, Phoenix Cradle, and the Path of Burning Steps. All of these exotics will do a good job, but for this build specifically today, we're going to use the Stronghold as a dedicated ×2 restoration healing build. If you want to see other solar builds, let me know below and I might look into some more. As for mods, I'm running a heavy ammo finder in the helmet since we're using our sword a lot, so it's kind of ideal, as well as a solar cipher mod. In the arms, I'm running 3 grenade kickstart mods. Quite expensive this season, but this will help to get our grenade back quicker. Then for the chest, I have 1 damage resist mod and 2 lucent blades. The lucent blades will just benefit our swords more, meaning that we can recharge the guard attack quicker. Then for the legs, we have 1 innovation mod to get grenade energy when picking up orbs, 1 solar scavenger mod for our heavy weapon, and 1 solar surge mod to increase the damage of our solar weapons. This should consume our armor charge stacks, making grenade kickstart somewhat pointless, but if we have full stacks, we'll just use them on a grenade, which will only happen in an emergency most of the time. But for the class armor, I'm running 3 bomber mods, again to help get the grenade back quicker, and these mods aren't required, but they do just help make the build a tiny little bit better. Stat focus, you want to get 100 resilience first. I kinda messed up the build slightly, but if you can get 100 resilience, go for it, and then get 100 discipline as well. That's all you really need for the stats, so it is pretty basic and an easy build to create without too much restriction. For the artifact, nothing is benefiting us, so this build can be used in any season, assuming nothing gets nerfed or changed with mods, fragments and exotics, so the build can only get better pretty much. As for the mod screen, this is the full setup if you want to copy it here, but again, dim links will be down below too. Now this build definitely is a really good one to have in your top 10 loadouts this season. It's not the best build in the game, but it's definitely up there right now for what it has to offer. And if or when swords become meta again, and when we get mods that benefit the solar subclass, this build can only get better and more broken. So honestly guys, make this build, get it ready, and in a season or a few seasons time, I can almost guarantee you guys that you'll be looking at this build for not only a survivability option, but also as a DPS one too, since damaging the enemies and having constant restoration effects makes us unkillable while fighting bosses and champions, so a warlock's well just isn't even needed at this point. But guys, if you don't like this build, then you might like some of my other builds for Destiny 2 Lightfall Season of the Deep or Season 21, so feel free to check out that full playlist down below for new and updated builds, which have all the latest builds to date, because you might just find your new best build. But for now guys, give this one a try, and I'll catch you very soon for the next build, because hunters, you're next. Peace out guys.